headlights, just like an old Mazda RX-7. Oh, baby, those are sexy. Oh, a red wagon. This is the Attack Chicken. So now, not this exact Straman convertible, but one of the other 12 Straman convertibles was actually featured on the cover of Road and Track magazine in September of 1987. In addition to that, one of the other reasons this car is so famous and so rare is that the one-of-one Ferrari Testerossa convertible that was created by Ferrari was actually sold and given to as a gift to the head of Fiat at the time. So like I said, this car has a ton of notoriety. Now let's talk a little bit about the motor. What makes this car even more so interesting, I feel like I've broken records saying it over and over again, but it's just so special, is this car actually has a flat 12 cylinder. Not a V12, a flat 12. And this was actually the first Ferrari road car to sport a 12-cylinder engine. That was also something else that made the Ferrari Testarossa one of the most notable vehicles that Ferrari ever created. In addition to digging them out of the bankruptcy hole, this was a highly produced vehicle. Now, you might have heard of two other of the 512 models that were perhaps more rare than this here Ferrari Testarossa. Now, what is funny about this car is you might think that a 12-cylinder Ferrari, it must be incredibly fast. Well, the Ferrari Testarossa actually only was producing around 385 horsepower given the massive flat 12-cylinder engine. So what the Ferrari did is when they further produced the 512TR and the 512M, they actually increased the horsepower. Both models further ascending as such. So the 512TR was somewhere in the ballpark of about 420 horsepower, and the 512M actually went up to about 450 horsepower. Now this flat 12-cylinder Ferrari engine producing about 385 horsepower, as I said, pulled 0 to 60 in actually a little over 5 seconds. Like we said, this car was not necessarily the fastest comparing to an F40 or anything like that, but that was not necessarily its purpose. This car was designed to be sold to the masses, hence why Ferrari produced so many. Now let's talk a little bit more about Richard Straman and his conversions. You guys see that this rear deck lid on this Testarossa, as well as the doors and the windshield, might not necessarily be identical to a Testarossa coupe. That is because Richard Straman's beautiful design and technology actually allowed him to fully recreate the rear deck lid as well as the doors and the windshield. So it's not like he just came along and chopped the top off this thing. You can see there's quite a bit of design as well as a plastic rear window to help for visibility. As I mentioned, of the two Testarossa convertibles that were ever produced by, of course, Richard Straman and the other out of Italy, Straman was by far the most popular due to his sleek design work and beautiful craftsmanship. In addition to that, most folks said that this was actually a great driving car because the convertible top provided a little bit more space for the owner. What you'll find if you've ever sat in a Ferrari Testarossa is that it's actually extremely inconvenient and uncomfortable. You've got this crazy piece coming out right here. I'm not sure if you can see it with a speaker on it that actually cuts over into your leg space for the pedals. Let me try to get you guys a good angle there. But one of my favorite things about this car, aside from how rare it is of course the gated manual. Gated manual 5-speed transmission. It was one of the few gated manuals that Ferrari actually ever built. Now that my feet are in here, you might be able to see how tight this is down here, and really just how tight this car is as a whole. Take a look at this. I'm about 5'11" or 6 foot, and my head is actually hitting the ceiling. In addition to that, if I put this visor down, it's really right in my face. Guys, this car is tight. If you put this thing down and you leave it flat, you actually can't even see the road. Look at that. So you have to bend it all the way backwards just to make it for even moderate drivability. Lastly, one of the only other issues with the Testerossa, of course, is its reliability. The Testerossa, featuring the flat 12-cylinder engine, required tons of maintenance. And when that maintenance had to be done, typically the engine has to be dropped from the car, which makes this an incredibly expensive car to maintain. Typically, services cost anywhere from $10,000 to $30,000, $40,000. So it's really, really important that the individuals that are buying these cars, of course, recognize how special they are, but of course also have a deep pocket to pay those bills. Now, of course, on this channel, we do lots and lots of modern day supercars, but it's so cool to go back in time and look at the analog dials that they used to have. Look at this, all original. We had power windows, we had heating and air conditioning, you had flashers and hazards, all kinds of things that you'll see in actually modern day cars, as well as blinkers and windshield wipers, just a little bit more retro. Something that is also very unique about the Testerossa is the fact that the mileage is not in the dash like a typical odometer. The odometer is actually down here right in front of the manual gated shifter, as you can see. As I mentioned, it is a 5-speed with reverse being straight up and the rest of the gears being used as such. It's very unique though that the first gear is down and second gear is up. It's typically the opposite, but hey, gotta love those Italians. Now, one of my good buddies here, they are actually the owners of the car, and they are the ones who sold this car. And he was telling me one of his favorite things about the Testerossa is the legendary flip-up headlights. Just like an old Mazda RX-7. Oh, baby, those are sexy. Also reminds me a little bit of the F40. Come on over here, Spencer, and show everyone the red head. So what most people don't know about the Testerossa, and I'm not gonna lie, I actually didn't know either until today when I was doing a bit of research, is that Testerossa translates to red head. Hence where they came up with the name for the car, because this flat 12-cylinder engine had a red head. Hence why they named it the Testerossa. Now, the last thing I want to note about this engine bay that is extremely unique that you might never see again is the gas fill. People think at the gas station you're just dumping fuel straight into the engine bay, which catches you some very funny looks. But what is important to note is, as I mentioned to you guys, when Richard Straman chopped the top off this and made those custom body panels, he had to relocate the fuel fill into the engine bay. Hence why that looks like a bit of a knockoff fuel fill. It is not done by Ferrari that way. However, it is the only way for the body to contain such beautiful, sleek design like Richard Straman created. So you know how we were asking what's the next car that y'all are going to build or buy?
Well,
sexy.
Sexier.
And even better, oh, we'll walk over. And even better than the red Testerossa, a red wagon. That's right, guys. You see car seats in there because this is a life-size wagon that is actually mounted on a truck chassis. It is a one-of-one Radio Flyer truck conversion, strictly built for show. But man, this thing is badass. So you climb on up these stairs, hop on in.
Dominic, you're gonna have to get this up here.
And you are behind the helm of a Radio Flyer. How do I look, guys? So we actually do need to give acknowledgement to Art Cleary, who designed and built this thing entirely by hand. Art, I know this video is about a Ferrari Testerossa that's also custom, but this is pretty badass. So everyone, that concludes today's video about the beautiful Straman Ferrari Testerossa convertible, and also my favorite in the collection, the famous Radio Flyer in red, just how they made them back in the day when we were kids. But I appreciate you all. Like I said, press that subscribe button and tune into the channel for more videos.